Hello and welcome to the Capital Games Podcast. I'm the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
Zero. As it is the week after E3, technically not E3 week, news is kind of slim. But we found some things we can talk about that are interesting. But before we do that, it's been a couple of weeks that we've just been talking about news and stuff. We actually played some games this week. So why don't we talk about what we've been playing? Zero, you go first. What have you been playing?
So the obsession for the moment has been Neon White, and that is just a fantastic game.
You were streaming this for a little while after our last recording, I think, from our movie podcast, and I was just watching you playing, and the first thing I grabbed on it was just how fluid it was. Why don't you describe what Neon White is?
So the premise is that you're a sinner from hell that has been given another chance at redemption in heaven, because heaven is infested by demons, and, well, they have you sinners competing in a race to kill the most demons and everything. But what makes it so interesting is that it's got sort of like a sort of cel-shaded aesthetic, I guess you can call it.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes it interesting is you can only hold 2 weapon cards, and then you have a backup weapon, which is your sword.
Okay.
And the thing about the weapon cards that makes them so interesting is that the weapons have 2 functions. If you use the primary fire button, then you'll use the weapon's primary attack. So, like a handgun, use the primary fire, it shoots. If you use the alt fire button, then you discard the card that you currently have equipped. So in the case of the handgun, the discard ability lets you jump. So basically, by discarding that card, you gain the ability to double jump.
Okay.
So the game starts easy, but then, as expected with these games, it quickly becomes a challenge of mechanic mastery, where you're trying to chain up all these mechanics just back to back to back to try to get the fastest time to get out of the map and everything.
Now, you mentioned... Go ahead, keep going.
And then what kind of makes it fun is there's, of course, 3 ranks. There's silver, gold, and then pure or platinum. I forget exactly what it's called, but essentially just the higher rank that you unlock, then the more information on the level you unlock. So, like, if you get a silver rating, you'll unlock the ability to see your ghost data, so you can see how your ghost did and keep track whether you're falling behind or you're ahead. And then when you get gold, then one of the other things that opens up is the ability to see a hint on the fastest route out of the level, so you can get the fastest time. And then I think even earning like silver also opens up the location of a gift, which is for the visual novel portion of the game. So yeah, just lots of replayability and challenge for the levels and everything. And then, of course, since this is kind of framed almost like a speedrunning game, there are leaderboards. So if you have friends who are playing this, then you'll be able to see what their times are, and you can get as competitive as you want or whatnot. So yeah, it's all in all, it's a wild game.
Okay. You mentioned, like with most games like this, where it's skill-based, where it kind of eases you in and then ramps up the difficulty. Is the ramp-up fluid? Is it smooth to where they I guess, introduce mechanics little by little, and then it starts getting tougher? Or is there a steep drop-off or like a steep climb up at a certain point when you get through the game?
So for the most part, the ramp-up is pretty gentle. There is one exception to this.
Okay.
The exception being that as you get through the visual novel portions by gifting your other characters gifts, so you can open up conversations with them and stuff like that, one of the things that you will unlock are challenge levels related to the particular neon you're building your social links with and everything.
Hmm.
And those are pretty much just extreme platforming and skill challenges, and they can come out of nowhere for you because, like, for me, I'm just obsessed with getting all the gifts in the first run, so I can just dump all the gifts on the other characters as quick as I can, and then just start churning out the challenge levels. And one of them was just this challenge level that was just covered in spikes and just has you doing some almost precision platforming. And for me, it was like a gigantic leap in having to get really good with my movements and everything. So that's the only reason I say that there is an exception, that if you're going to take the same path as me and just crank out all the challenge levels at the once you're done with the chapter, then sometimes some of those levels can be a real rude awakening, just with how much skill that they emphasize just right away. And hell, one mission I bumped in had a weapon that I had not even encountered in the story mode, so trying to get used to that in a hurry was a real shock.
Yeah. So, okay. Like I said, I watched you play this game, and I guess the speed running is part of the game. Is that true, or is it more of a puzzle solving game where what's the to get through the game? Is it more puzzle solving or is it more speed running? Because they're two different things, really. So,
Interestingly enough, it's actually a little bit of both, because when you get the gold rank on the time and meet the gold benchmark, the game will give you a little hint item that's in the game, and when you touch the hint item, it'll show you sort of an alternate pathway that can cut down significant portions of your time.
interesting. Okay.
So basically, if you're wanting to master the levels, what you'll want to do, if this isn't like if platforming isn't your forte, then at minimal you want to try to shoot for the gold medal, and then unlock the item that shows you the shortcut, and then basically from there just it takes a bit of puzzle solving, because sometimes these shortcuts will also cause you to skip enemies. So you're going to have to get creative on how to kill the enemies, because you can't touch the exit portal item until you kill every single enemy in the map.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you have a little bit of a puzzle solving element. Like one level I did had a puzzle solving mechanic where I skip almost half the level.
Oh.
But there are 4 enemies that you have to deal with, otherwise you can't unlock the portal. And for me, it was just it was more of a skill challenge at this point, because I had to shoot 2 sets of explosive barrels to knock out all 4 of these enemies that I'm literally going to skip through half the level on once I unlock the hint item and everything. So yeah, it gets really, really intense and really creative, and it will really force you to use all of your knowledge on how the weapons work and what their interactions are, to really get the most out of getting the fastest time. And you will want to get the fastest time, because between each chapter, you'll have some of the heavenly personnel who will say, hey, you need to have at minimal this rank in order to unlock the next chapter. So if you're not at minimal just getting golds and proceeding, then it'll be real hard to rank up and everything. But like I said, just with how the game loads so quickly and so fluidly,
Yes.
just you almost just kind of go, well, I'm just a 1/10 of a second off, and that's a technical error. So let me just crunch down and just keep pushing and everything. And that's where, for me, the addiction factor in the game comes in, because just I'll usually go, oh man, that's that's literally a technical error. I am just 1/10,000th of a second off. Just
Yeah.
if I can clean up my movements, if I can just tighten my shooting up, if I can just time the use of my skills just right, I can shave that off, or maybe even more.
Yeah.
And just with how quick the game reloads the level, I just get sucked in, and then before I know it, I just look at the time and I'm just like, oh my god, it's been an hour since I said one more time. All right, time to log off.
Yeah. So yeah, what this is reminding me of is not necessarily the same game, but remember Super Meat Boy?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like, I was addicted to that game when it came out, and it was a great game because not only was it in bite-sized chunks, but it was also difficult, but it wasn't impossible. So you would have these situations where you want to not only beat the fast time, but you'd also want to get the special item in there and whatnot to get extra stuff. And this is what Neon White's kind of reminding me of is just the feeling I had playing Super Meat Boy when it was out, and just loving that game and wanting to perfect everything in it before I go on to the next one. I mean, that's what it kind of sounds like, right?
Yeah, especially with the fast loading, it's just like Super Meat Boy, because I remember I kind of had the same vibe with Super Meat Boy, just when I would just sort of nail the mechanics in the level, and I'd just go, oh, I just need to go a little bit faster to get the medal for this level. Okay, and then it just be a reload,
Yeah.
and because the loading was so quick, it really didn't matter too much.
I remember the person I was living with at the time. I was playing and I was loving the game, but I was getting frustrated because I was like cursing and screaming, like, "God damn it, why?" And, and the person I was living with was like, "Why are you playing that game? Because it makes you so angry." And I'm like, "Because I fucking love it, God." But yeah. So, when you were streaming this, the first thing I noticed was, well, we were streaming this off Discord, and the first thing I noticed was, wow, this is choppy as hell at the stream itself. But
Yeah.
I was also noticing that it was the game was running so fast that even before the stream could actually update, you're already on your run again. Like there were times where you were done, but it stopped, and then you're at it again. I was like, whoa, okay. So I'm glad it's like really fluid like that, because that you would be surprised how if the loading time wasn't as snappy, how much we are conditioned to be like, do I really want to wait that? Nah, forget it. Move on. Like you'd be surprised how having that fast of a load time will condition you to say, I'll try it again. It'll take a few seconds, and then you're on. So, yeah. So,
Yeah, and the awesome thing is, since it's also out on Switch, both on PC and Switch, it is hyper optimized, and for both platforms, it runs at 60 frames per second. I don't have a insane brand new graphics card or a 240 hertz monitor, so I couldn't tell you if the game can run up to more insane frame rates or anything like that. But I can say for me, it on my GTX 1080, it runs at a very fluid 60 frames per second. So it's just very impressive just how optimized this game is, and I'm running it on ultra everything.
I don't think, like, looking at the game and watching you play it, I don't think you would need that beefy of a card to run optimally, though. So that's good, at least. At least we're not looking at it and go, why does it need a 3080? Like that, what? No.
Yeah,
But
because I think it was either the reviewer from Eurogamer or Game Informer, one of those publications. The reviewer who's playing Neon White on their PC, they're playing it on a gaming PC from 2012, and they had it cranked to ultra everything, and they were able to get through just fine. So,
nice.
yeah,
That's good.
This game is really optimized, and it's definitely worth it for the price. Right now, there's about 2 days left on the launch discount, but it's currently selling for $22.49. I'm assuming by the time this episode releases, it'll be back to its normal price of $24.99.
Okay.
Even still, I was prepared to buy this at $24.99 full price. So that should tell you how willing I was to give this one a leap of faith. And even now, with how much I've played of it, I would still just, if I had missed it on launch, I would still pay the $24.99 and just buy it right away.
Good. Well, that's good to hear. So, Neon White, worth the cash if you're interested. Okay. So, let's move on. I have Game Pass, so I went ahead and downloaded Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. I think it's Tribute Games who are making this. I first thought it was Way Forward, but I think it's Tribute.
Tribute Games and .emu.
Okay, yes, that's right. And this is a throwback to, I would say, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game, and from Turtles in Time, from like the NES, Super NES arcade time. The first thing I noticed is that the game, with its pixel style, looks really good. It is really charming looking. It definitely keeps the vibe of the Super NES days, but with a nice polish to it, animation-wise, that is really attractive looking. So I really like the animation. And then when you're playing the game and you're doing your fighting and everything, the levels are actually very full of character and charm. So immediately I noticed that, and it was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Because usually beat-em-ups don't really worry about that stuff. Like, the backgrounds are kind of like, whatever, this is a nondescript apartment, this is a nondescript office, this is an alleyway. But they actually put a lot of detail and personality in the levels, which I liked. So that was good. I like that in there. I want to comment on something. The reason why I played this is because a lot of YouTubers and journalists I covered were saying, oh, potential game of the year right here. Oh, you can't miss this. Calm down. Seriously. Calm the fuck down. Like, I'm enjoying the game and it's fun, but I look at this and I'm like, we haven't innovated the beat 'em up since Castle Crashers. Like, and this game doesn't do what Castle Crashers did. Like, for example, Castle Crashers is a good beat 'em up. It's a really good beat 'em up. But it not only had lots of levels that are well detailed, have full personality, great animation, but it also had RPG mechanics. You also unlocked moves. You also unlocked characters. I think you unlock Casey Jones at some point. I haven't gotten there yet. But there's so many things to keep you attached and to keep playing the game that I think it took me, 10 to 15 hours to beat the game. And from what I hear, it takes about maybe 3 to 4 to play this game and beat it. So, unless you really like the game and you want to play as every single character, like, I'm looking at it and it's like, yeah, this is enjoyable, but, like, how much fun can you have fighting the same levels over and over again as the same characters? And to me, it's like, not much. Unless there's something that I'm building. Like, let's say I like Donatello, okay? But let's say if I wanted to build my character up to be max range and like a poke character and do it that way and level them up to be a range character to where, like, his bow staff reaches ridiculously long and does a lot of poke damage and keeps people away and stuff like that. That would be cool, because then I could personalize my character and make him to who I want. And then I'll make, let's say, Leonardo my power character, where he comes up close and he hits people real hard and beats them up. Like, that would be cool, but you don't do that in this game. You are playing it's a good beat 'em up, don't get me wrong, but for, I think it's $30 that the price is, or $25. Let me look it up.
I think it's $24.99, so about $25.
Okay. For $25, unless Yeah, it's 25. Unless you have a group of friends that are going to play with you all the time on this, or if you're okay with playing with that group of friends once and being done with it, like, I think $25 is a tad pricey, especially since you can get Castle Crashers for 20, and you can get more replay value out of that. But yeah, I get it. People are nostalgic for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It reminds them of their youth. And I think that's where all this praise is coming from, because if you look at the game and how it runs and how it looks, it's full of personality. And I get that, and that's cool. But personality is half the thing, is really half the game. Like, the looks, and the looks of the game is half the thing. It is how much you enjoy playing it, and how much time do you get playing it. And maybe I think differently now, but I think $25 for a game that will last you 3 to 4 hours, to me, is not enough. Now, if I bought that for, let's say, 10 or 15 bucks, I'd be like, okay, I can go for that, I guess. But you have Castle Crashers, which is $20, and I think Castle Crashers is a better game than this. Am I saying it's a bad game? No, but I honestly look at Shredder's Revenge and look at it as a nostalgia piece, and for people to get like really teary-eyed about the Turtles, and because the reviews were all like, grab your favorite pizza and get your friends together, and I'm like, okay, cool, and it was just like, it was like pure absolute nostalgia is what everyone was getting out of it, and I really wish people would just be like, yeah, it's fun with that nostalgic piece, but past that, it's a beat 'em up. And it's good. It's a good beat 'em up, but that's it. It's just a standard arcade beat 'em up with no frills, and that's it. And I think there are much better games than this, despite me enjoying what it was. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from what I can see, there's a lot of unlockables to find. There's some fun achievements to find, but this one, I think the draw is mostly that you can do 6-player online, and that's just something that we haven't seen in beat 'em ups since the X-Men arcade game, or even Guardian Force on Sega Saturn, and I think the remaster that was released for that game on the Xbox 360. So I think that's where a lot of the charm is. Full disclaimer, I did get the game on PlayStation, since I still had some birthday PSN cash from my brother-in-law and everything.
Okay.
Haven't had a chance to play it yet.
You can't play 6-player on that, though. The PS4 and PS5 versions, I think, are limited to how much you can play. So
no, it's 6 players online, but you can only do 4 players on local co-op. Yep.
Okay, yeah, that's right. You're right. Sorry.
So,
but
yeah, I think that's where I think most of the draw seems to be. Just, oh my god, I can get like a 6-player lobby going with all my friends and everything.
And yeah, to be fair, I played it alone because I just generally don't like playing with other people. So that also put that in mind. Like, if you're gonna play with friends, I guess that it's probably a better game that way. But I still look at it and I'm like, but there are just other beat 'em ups have done this better, like features wise. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I look at this and say, yeah, spending $25 on this when there are other games that have more for less is just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, it does look good and it plays good. I will say that. My issue is purely on the value aspect of this. So if you have no problem with it, go for it. But what my main criticism is going to be is basically there are better, more fully rounded fighter like beat 'em ups out there that you can play, and it just is not going to have the nostalgia that you're probably looking for with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So yeah, that's it. That's my criticism. Let us move on. So I don't know if this counts as Summer Games Fest or not. Probably would it? I don't.
Well, on my Discord channel, I did kind of count it as Summer Games Fest related coverage because it
Yeah, you
came
are a stickler about
sort
that.
of came sort of on the heels of the end of it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Square Enix had their Final Fantasy VII 25th anniversary presentation, and the days leading up before the presentation, they made an interesting declaration. They had said, "Hey, just so you know, this is going to be a very brief 10-minute presentation. We're just going to focus strictly on the games. Just don't expect any other announcements related to other Final Fantasy games here. It's just going to be pure stuff related to Final Fantasy VII and
Yeah.
us celebrating the 25th year anniversary of the series."
Right. Which, they pulled a Keeley, and that was a good thing. But that also didn't exactly mean it was going to be a disappointing stream, because I watched a lot of the people talking online, and they seemed to actually enjoy it. So let's first get into what they announced. First off, they announced merch. So excuse me, they announced merch, and we're talking about statues, alarm clocks, rings, jewelry, vinyls, things like that. But who cares about that, really? So,
Well, full disclaimer, that Buster
no.
Sword alarm clock, I am really heavily considering it if I've got some bonus cash for my job. But I only say that because I actually own the Cloud wall clock that was like $135.
Jesus Christ, really?
It's nice because one, it's LED backlit, so if you have the lights out in whatever room the clock is in, then the LEDs come on to show you what the time is. But what's neat is when there's enough ambient light around, on the top of every hour, it'll play one of 12 tunes from the Final Fantasy VII remake to kind of signify the top of the hour.
Oh, interesting.
So,
Okay.
but for that clock, they have two designs. They have the classic PS1 cover art design where you've got Cloud kind of looking at this Shinra reactor, and then you've got the other one with Hot Boy Sephiroth burning Nibelheim and everything. So depending on where your loyalties lay, just either pick Cloud or Sephiroth.
Okay, that's cool. $135 though. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's pricey, but I'm someone who really loved Seven as a kid, so
Okay.
I was just like, yeah, I need something to kind of give me a clock in my media center area, but also I kind of want something that sort of fits my gaming lounge and library sort of vibe that I've got with my living room.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you're interested, you fucking nerd. So, yeah, that's right. Anyway, they showed off more of the first Final Fantasy VII: The First Soldier, which is the iOS and Android competitive shooter. I think it's
a battle royale, basically.
Right. Okay. So so they showed that off. I don't know anybody who's playing it though, so I don't know if anyone's excited by that.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't really like battle royales, so the game was definitely beyond me.
Right. More people were excited by Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis though, but what I kept hearing are people saying, "Please put this on console, like please," which I'm kind of confused by because it is a free to play Final Fantasy VII game. Isn't it just a retelling of Final Fantasy VII, but in that old chibi art style?
So it's basically a remix version of Final Fantasy VII, but here's the twist. So the gacha mechanic is not going to be characters; it's going to be gear. Ugh. So, yeah, you'll be busting loot boxes in hopes that you get the best gear, the best weapons, and stuff like that. So, how I imagine that working is during debut week, whenever they put it into open beta, there's probably going to be like a banner to get Cloud's best weapon, the Ultima weapon, which was that sword that had like um, 8 materia slots, but you had 4 of them linked together in a pair, and there was no growth multiplier, so they couldn't gain any experience or anything like that. But it was the best sword in the game, so it did like top tier damage. So,
Go ahead.
I would imagine that you would probably be trying to pull tickets to get that particular weapon, and then multiple copies to infuse it to make it stronger and all that other useful junk like some of the other gacha games and everything.
Okay, cool. Like, I played Final Fantasy VII when it came out, and aside from the story, I barely remember a lot of the details. To be honest, Final Fantasy VII didn't really light my world on fire when I played it. Like, I thought, like, technologically it was really cool, but, like, the story was kind of like, okay, sure. But I was a snob back then, too. So, and back then I played 6, and I think it was called 3 at the time, I think, right? Yeah, 3.
Yeah.
And after I played 7, like, I'm like, but this isn't as good as 3. So I don't get why people love this so much. But anyway, I can get on with that. Okay, so that looks interesting, and people are asking for it on console. So we'll see if Square acquiesces. That'll be interesting. What's also announced is Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is coming to Steam, or it's on Steam right now, isn't it?
Yeah, on Steam as of this past Friday.
And from what I've heard, that it sold really well. Like, I think it's one of the top selling. It's one of the top selling games right now, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's probably number 1 on the charts, I would imagine, because I know everyone was just like, I don't want to buy it on Epic, I want to buy it on Steam because fan patches and whatever's. So
yeah, which really goes to show you. I think we discussed this on the Discord that we have. That, or did we discuss this personally? I'm not sure, but basically, Epic has really not gotten a foothold much at all on the PC gaming market, except for like the games that they've purchased. Like, if you want to play Fortnite, you have to play it there. You want to play Rocket League, you have to play it there. Magic, you have no choice. So if you're forced on that, then you're on it. But when it comes to everything else, it really seems like the majority of people are willing to wait until it comes to Steam, which really kind of surprised me a little, because of how the gaming industry and the people who follow it are. They want to play the newest, latest, greatest right now, and they're not willing to wait. But I guess PC gamers are a lot more patient. So there you go. So that's coming to Steam.
Yep.
What was announced and what was rumored, I think leaked beforehand, was Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion.
Yeah. This one
was
a bit interesting because there's been such a contentious history with regards to the publishing rights for the game. So for anyone who's not familiar or who may not have a PSP or anything, so long story short, there was a Japanese pop artist by the name of Gact who played the main villain for Crisis Core, whose name is Genesis. And if you're not familiar with Japanese pop star culture, their labels can be really, really, really stingy on how a artist's appearance can be monetized. So he was one of the top Japanese rock stars a long while ago, and unfortunately his label was just one of the most ornery of all the labels out there. And when Sony was starting to wind down the PSP store in favor of the Vita, unfortunately during that time, if my memory serves me correctly, some games on the PSP store were starting to be out of their licensing period. So Sony was having to negotiate with the publishers if they would permit the sale of their games on the PSN store. even though they were prepping for the Vita to come out and everything. So naturally, you had some labels who were fine with their games being republished and it's still being sold, and then you had some that had much more complicated situations, and Crisis Core was one of the complicated ones where the artist talent agency just did not think the going rate that Square wanted to pay them to have this particular artist's likeness being portrayed in a video game to be distributed online. So pretty much just Square had to say, okay, well, I guess we're not going to renew the rights on this. So yeah, anyone who bought it on PSN, great. If you bought it on a physical copy, well, we hope your PSP still works, because if not, then, well, tough nuts.
God, it sucks too. So what did we hear if they just renewed a license, or are they just going to redo the character?
So that's where it gets interesting. So it just in the English presentation, they really didn't focus too much on the VA talent and everything. So while I was trying to grab trailers, the Square Enix Japan channel actually had all the trailers up, and they actually went into some detail on the voice actors and everything. And even the Crisis Core Reunion Japanese site kind of revealed that the cat's out of the bag, that Gact will be reprising his role in the Japanese language track for Crisis Core Reunion. So I'm assuming whatever label he's currently working with now is apparently amenable to whatever financial terms Square Enix worked out to do this remaster.
Well, that's good. Okay. So there was also another semi-small controversy, and you're gonna understand it when we talk about the next game. But this is coming out to basically all systems. It's coming out to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Steam, and Nintendo Switch. So this is going to be a game that will be available everywhere when it comes out. And that was proved controversial because of this next game that was announced, and that was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the second part of what is going to be a 3-part trilogy for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. So they showed a short trailer, and it was pretty much all CG. There was no gameplay at all. So, and some who are really into Final Fantasy VII, I guess, picked up on a few things of what it might be about and what they might be doing. But other than that, I mean, it just looked like Final Fantasy VII Remake. So, yeah, I haven't played it, so I'm interested definitely, but I haven't played 7 Remake yet.
Yeah, it definitely looked more focused on the Disc 2 content. So for anyone who has played through 7 on the original release, or any of the ported versions like on Steam, PS4, Xbox, or so on and so forth, then yeah, just some of this stuff might look quite familiar to you, or the reference will be made very clear. So I know some people are definitely excited, especially seeing some of the scenes with Zack and everything. So looked neat. Too little detail to go off on right now, but I know PlayStation, as usual, had to clarify that 7 Rebirth is going to be a PlayStation exclusive, and yes. I think there was like the usual fine print that it won't be coming to other platforms after a year from its release or whatever.
PS5 only for next winter. That means PS4 is not going to get it. So those who don't get a PS5 by what it looks like they're saying is next winter, you're kind of boned at that point. But that's not where the controversy is. The controversy basically is that it's going nowhere else, and which makes it a little weird that they're releasing Crisis Core everywhere. But I guess because of the contract that they have with Sony, that they can't release the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy anywhere else. I mean, clearly Sony has no problem with being on PC after a year, but I wonder if the console exclusivity is much more broad, like or much more, maybe not broad, but more direct and longer. Because for usually it's a year if it's not going to be an exclusive to a platform. Then after that year, they announce that it's coming to this platform. But that's not what's happening here. It's they're not even putting Remake integrated into other systems. They're staying on PS5. So maybe the contract is for the entire trilogy to be on there first, and then when that trilogy is over, then they'll release it on Xbox. Because I don't see this coming out on Switch at all.
Yeah, the Switch doesn't have nearly the horsepower to run it, so I could never see it on Switch unless there's some sort of Super Switch that's just on the horizon in the distant future or something.
Or they do the cloud version.
Oh God.
Yeah, I know. Like that's the one thing with the Switch. Like I don't get. Like if you can't get the game, just don't get it. Because no one's going to want to play the cloud version of a game. Like who really bought the Kingdom Hearts games cloud versions on Switch? Like was it Kingdom Hearts that had cloud? I know Hitman did. Resident Evil. I think one of the Resident Evils did.
Resident Evil 7 Biohazard.
Yeah. Like I don't know anybody who looked at that and went, "Yeah, that is worth my money." No.
Yeah, I think Square was really short-sighted because I know in Japan everyone had said, "Oh yeah, runs fine for us in Japan," but as usual, just Square Enix tends to be real myopic on how they think about their audience and everything. So anyone who wasn't in Japan, yeah, it was a terrible experience to play Kingdom Hearts on the cloud and everything.
Yeah.
I think one article from one of the bigger review publications ended up having a situation that when they were playing the game, the Square Enix streaming servers ended up having to go into maintenance mode, so they were basically forcibly kicked before they could even get to a save point.
Wow, really?
So just for me, I was kind of trying to think of the horror of that. I'm just like, no. I was just like, yeah, no way, no how. That is absolutely terrible. That would be a horrible thing to see. And the first thing it reminded me of was someone was playing one of the new Need for Speed games that EA released that had like always on connectivity and everything. And they were driving around the city, and then all of a sudden they get like a forcible notice to disconnect because the servers are going under maintenance, and they're just like, oh man. And then of course after they get disconnected, the game has no offline mode, so basically their Need for Speed game is dead until maintenance is done. So, but yeah, just I definitely don't see it coming to Switch, but I mean, they could do kind of like what they did for Final Fantasy 15 on Switch, because Switch got the Pocket Edition, so I mean, I could see them porting Ever Crisis to come onto Switch.
Yeah, that's true. I can definitely see that. Okay. But that was actually it. I think people were excited because of the new announcement of the new, the second part of the remake. So, yeah, I mean, decent showing. People are excited. Not many people are excited with Crisis Core, I'm surprised by. I think it's one of those things where they tacitly know they're going to buy it, despite them knowing, oh, it's Crisis Core, so we know what it is. And since we can't buy it digitally anywhere, I guess we'll buy it here. So I think that's what the feeling is.
Yeah, and it's funny too because I had been wanting to play Crisis Core again for a while, but my PSP in my home has a dead backlight, so I have to either A, get a brand new PSP, or B, just try to see if there's a console repair shop in my area that will repair it same day or something. So I was just like, oh, well, guess I'm gonna have to, just pull some money together and maybe get like a nice example of a PSP secondhand for like $140 or something. And then this announcement happens. I was like, well, never mind then. I guess I know what I'm gonna do. I'm probably gonna buy it on PS5. No, I think that's really about it. Just kind of a surprise to see Crisis Core come back, really, especially just knowing its sort of sordid history.
Yeah, I agree. So why don't we move on? We may talk about this quickly, because I do have a couple of things to say about this, but I believe it was a website that deals with tracking data and sales on apps gave away the potential amount of money that Diablo Immortal sold on its first 2 weeks. And the amount of money seems to be $24 million in the first 2 weeks. When that was announced, a lot of journalists and a lot of gamers were either gnashing their teeth, saying, "Oh, this is why they did it, because they gain all this money," and journalists were saying, "Yeah, it's successful. So if you guys are complaining so much, why are you buying it?" Yeah. So, with that said, Zero, what do you think about the first 2 weeks of sales for Diablo Immortal?
It's interesting. I know one of the statistics that I read was of all the breakdowns of the highest spending countries on Diablo Immortals, it's basically US in the number 1 slot, and then South Korea in the number 2 slot.
Yes.
And then it's just kind of distributed between Europe, Japan, and a few other countries here and there, fighting for the rest of the top 10 positions.
Mm-hmm. Right. That doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, for as much as we always should preface this when we talk about what gamers, as much as enthusiast gamers who follow the business and follow the industry really, really hate these types of games, there is a large audience that started playing games on their phones that do not mind it in the slightest, which is why these businesses work and they make money. These companies don't really cater to enthusiast gamers anymore. They cater to what makes them the most money, and Diablo Immortal was going to make money on this. The issue I always had with Diablo Immortal and how they announced it was they announced it to the wrong people. I think we've discussed this before. To me, they should have announced this at an Apple press conference instead of at BlizzCon. Because at BlizzCon, it's filled with people who own expensive PCs to play World of Warcraft and all their games on PC in the best way possible, and they were not interested at all in gaming on a phone, like at all. And because that is why I think they deserve to get memed to hell because of that announcement. But if they announced it and did a special deal with iOS, I think the sales would have been much better. Let me ask you something. Okay?
Yeah.
What do you think sold better in its first week? Or first 2 weeks? Diablo Immortal or Genshin Impact?
Genshin Impact, easy.
I think a lot of people would be surprised by that. Yeah. Genshin Impact made $60 million in its first 2 weeks, whereas Diablo Immortal made $24. And to add more context to this, if you were to make Diablo Immortal into a $70 game and sold it as it was, that's 347,000 units. Okay? Think about that for a second. If a game like Diablo only sold 347,000 units in its first 2 weeks, would Blizzard be happy with that?
Oh God, no.
No, not at all. It took I think it was the first person that said this on Twitter was SkillUp, who basically said they pretty much took a franchise that made billions. Like, for those who may not realize this, Diablo 3, despite it being controversial when it came out, sold 3.5 million copies on its first day on PC only. It is still the best-selling single-day purchase or single-day game that has ever been on PC. It in its first month made 6.3 million. I went ahead and calculated that for a $60 game, because it was $60 at the time.
Yeah.
Okay. 378 million on its first month. And that's double the amount it did on its first day. So basically, on its first day, it made about 186 million. And people who are like, oh, greedy Blizzard, oh God, this is why they're going to keep doing it. No. If I were the person who greenlighted this, and I were the person who said, oh, we're going to rack up sales like crazy in this. This is going to make so much money. I'd be sweating bullets right now. Because now you're going to have to explain to a bunch of shareholders who were told that, oh, Diablo Immortal on phones, we're going to make as much as we did Diablo 3. Easy. And they also have to share their sales with NetEase, too. So not only did you basically make less money, you made less money that you have to divide with another company. And seriously, I would, if I were the person who greenlit this and like was passionate about this, and, oh, this is gonna make so much money, and it's gonna drive up our sales, and we're gonna do great, I'd be worried about the next shareholders meeting, because then they're gonna really question, why didn't this sell as well as it should have? And it will bring about the questions of, well, are we like, really what I think is they misjudged who they announced it with. Because if you announced it, like I said, if you announced it at an Apple press conference, people would have been more accepting. But since you announced it at BlizzCon, you got the memes, you got the bad press, you got the bad coverage, you got the drama, you got everything, and that left a bad taste in people's mouth. But let's be honest here. There are people who played Diablo in the 90s who stopped gaming but have phones. And when they hear Diablo is on my phone, they're going to play it. And all they're going to see when they look up Diablo Immortal is going to be all this controversy and all this negativity, and it hurt them. So I think that's one thing. And I think the other thing is I've been playing the game since it came out, and I've spent about $80 on the game.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Basically, my plan of attack was whenever I got the battle pass. I got the collector's battle pass, whatever the fuck that means. I got the Boon of Plenty, which is basically you get like random kind of, like, from what I've noticed, you get like random kind of drops or something, like random materials that you can use. At a certain level, another battle pass came up I think it was called the Paragon's Tree, which within every 5 levels they give you different types of materials. So I got that. That was 20. The Blue and Plenty was 10. And then every boss that you beat in the game, they show a different chest that comes up. The first one was 99 cents, but as you move forward, the chests get more and more expensive.
Right, I remember you were telling me about that, how it started off like $1, then $2 at the second boss, $3 at the third boss, so on and so forth.
$8, $16, yeah. And I decided, okay, I'll get each one of those. All right. And then after that, did I get anything else? But I know I spent at least $80 in this game. And in the end, all I got was a bunch of materials, some gold, which really doesn't, like, it's needed, but you get so much of it, it doesn't kind of matter. And I got 1,550 orbs, which is just enough to get 9 crests in the game, those legendary crests.
Right.
That you can use to... And what they don't tell you, too, is that there's actually 3 crests. I think there's a YouTuber that covered this. There's basically 3. They only show 2 crests in the game, but there's really 3. The 2 crests they show are the regular crest and the legendary crest. Those 2 crests that you get free in the game, the items are not sellable at the market at all. It's the 3rd crest that you buy with actual money and orbs that you can take those gems, put them on the marketplace, and get money back for it. So, yeah. You'd only get 9 crests for that, which is the equivalency of like less than $25 worth of orbs. Like I looked at that and I'm like, this shit ain't worth it at all. Like I'm playing this and I'm like, I'm looking at everything I bought and all I received and I'm like, I'm not satisfied with how much these purchases have given me. Like I don't like, even if I were playing like to make more money, to spend more money to become more powerful, I don't feel like I'm more powerful. I feel like I feel like I'm powering up just below where I should be. Because my deck, my equipment is still at poor and still at okay ratings. So for me to spend $80 and still feel like I could be a lot more powerful, just shows the value, the intrinsic value you get for what you pay for. And it really sucks. Like I just really regret doing it. And I think that's what the main problem is. Like I what do you think? Like, what do you think about the sales and everything?
The sales are a little bit surprising to see, but when you put into the grand perspective, like you were mentioning, just how it's not actually as good as, say, something that has a little bit more mainstream appeal, like Genshin Impact, for example. It's kind of one of those things that's just like, wow, just yeah. If I was that marketing person who's just like, oh yeah, just this is gonna knock everyone flat on their feet. They're gonna be just amazed just by the sales and just everyone cashing in on the cash shop, and yeah, just it to see it do the numbers that it did, and that they're, in all honesty, a bit underwhelming. Yeah, I would definitely be afraid. And it's funny that you mentioned NetEase, because the game kind of ran into its own bit of controversy right ahead of the Chinese launch.
Oh, yeah, I heard, yeah.
So apparently the game was supposed to launch this week, and apparently just something happened, and the game's launch had been announced with a delay. And the official reason that NetEase gave was, hey, we have to do some more fine-tuning and adjustments for the Chinese market, so we apologize. We will come back later with a date that's a little bit more closer to when we plan to launch. And on top of that, some people were musing that it may have been politically motivated as well too, because the Blizzard account on WeChat, not WeChat, but Weibo, which is China's service that's like Twitter and Facebook combined.
Okay.
The Blizzard account actually got suspended from being able to make any sort of announcements or promotions ahead of the game. And I haven't been able to find a credible or veritable source to substantiate the claim, but the rumor is that whoever was managing the Blizzard account for the Weibo social media network may have apparently mentioned something on a Weibo post, basically insinuating that the Chinese Communist leader Xi Jinping should step down. But instead of saying his name outright, they concealed it by using the word bear, So the rumored post that this person made was something approximated in English to, "Hey, when will the bear step down?" And for anyone who's not in the know, Xi Jinping hates being compared to Winnie the Pooh, and it's become a bit of a meme. So, just if true, then yeah, it's not a wonder that the account was immediately suspended. So,
Jesus.
yeah, just a way to have a double whammy right before the big launch of your game.
Oh my god. Yeah, that good move on them, I guess. Jesus Christ. Okay. So I think two things are going to happen with Diablo Immortal, cuz I am steadfast into thinking that this is bad for them, and they're probably going to start doing something to correct this. But here's what they have two options here. They can either they can start doing the apology tour, saying we're going to fix things and we're going to improve it and we're going to restart the game and do a Diablo Immortal 2.0, where it's going to be like they did with Reaper of Souls on Diablo 3. They're going to rework the game. They're going to rework the tables. They're going to basically just do the game essentially all over again to make it more adaptable and more friendly and more acceptable to the people who would play it. Or, which is what I think they're going to do in this situation, they're going to milk the hell out of the whales in this game. They're going to make it so essentially, in order to play the game, you have to buy shit. You have to. In order to be competitive, in order to get the coolest stuff. Like, you have to spend money. And they're going to milk that for all it's worth until one day these whales are like, yeah, this really isn't worth it. Or they just find a new game and play something else. And then they go and do the rehabilitation tour. But, yeah, those are the two options. And I see them going with milking the whales first on this.
Yeah. Unfortunately, if they do go with the idea to milk the whales as hard as they can, it may end up potentially backfiring, because if there's one thing whales like to do, they like to flex their swag on others. And if you have the game population just dropping like a rock and there's no plebes to flex on, then the whales may end up just getting bored and just going, well, this sucks. I can't show off my swag. I can't flex on the poors. So this sucks. What else is new?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, in the end, again, I'm going to reiterate again. Like, if some of you are worried that they're making so much money that they're going to keep doing this to other games, this is bad. They don't want this. They wanted better, and I'm more than certain, and I'm willing to put money on it, that someone is sweating bullets here and being like, oh shit, this is not what I wanted. We wanted more than this. I'm in deep trouble. So someone is either heads are going to roll immediately, and the people who are making the game are going to get sacrificed and be told, like, you're out of here. We need a new direction. Or they're really gonna have to start reworking the game to make it more attractive to either whales or to the common gamer, because I think they're in trouble and they're gonna need to do something. So, all right, let's move on. Our final topic is more in the rumor category, and the only reason why we're doing this, because we don't usually cover rumors, but this has all been confirmed pretty much to be going on. Sony's going to have a stream next Tuesday on the 28th. And it's not about games. It's about their PlayStation accessories. And the rumors are going around of what's going to be there. The first thing that I think has been pretty much guaranteed is new headsets are coming. So like new 3D audio headsets, I think, like more pricey
audio,
right? Some more expensive, more premium headsets. I think they're going to be announced. I think I also heard like their own version of the Elite controller is going to be announced on this one.
Yeah, Tom Henderson was the one that leaked that there's probably going to be an announcement for a PS5 official Elite controller, because currently, as it stands, Sony is licensing Scuff to make an official Pro Tournament controller.
Oh,
but the Scuff controllers, I believe they start at $200, and then if you want the top tier options and everything, they cap off right at a whopping $260, $270. But for anyone who's familiar with the Scuff controllers, the warranties, the warranty and service repair timeline is atrocious. So if you have your Scuff controller break and you got to send it off for warranty, it may take you a long time. And of course, if you're a pro gamer, you've got clout, so you just get skipped ahead of the line, and they're more than willing to get your controller fixed and sent right back out to you. So the pro controller rumor, I'm personally excited for, because I actually have 2 Xbox Elite controllers, and I love both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always wanted something like that for PS4 and PS5, but there was just never anything official. And everyone who liked the extra paddles and stuff were just like, "Oh, well, just buy a Scuff. That's the only game in town." And then, of course, you start reading all the horror stories of people who weren't pro gamers and everything having long warranty service period times, and I'm just like, no, I'll skip.
Yeah. I got a question for you. Do you own an Elite controller?
Yeah, I actually have a Gen 1 Elite, and then I also have a Gen 2 Elite.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Where do you have the money for this? Don't answer. Don't answer. Don't answer. Don't answer. Just, I want to respect you in the morning, so look. But anyway, no, Zero is an upstanding citizen. He has a great job. He's very smart, so he's not like that. So no OnlyFans for Zero. So that's not what's happening. But yeah, I got a question for you then. Like, is it worth spending $150 on a single controller?
For me, it's not really too much of a deal, mostly because I value the ergonomics and everything.
Okay.
Like, one of the big things that the reason that I love my Xbox Elite controllers is for Forza. So if you play Forza with the manual transmission controls, the buttons to shift the gear lever up or down gears is either X or B. So instead of doing that, I'll usually shift it to the paddles on the back of the controller. And for me, the ergonomics work a lot better, because in a lot of sports cars, if they use something like a Tiptronic style transmission, then the paddles will usually be on the back of the steering wheel. So for me, it works out great being able to play Forza and have the paddle shifter controls right on the back of the controller, instead of having to hit X or B to shift up or down gears.
Okay.
So there's that angle. The other angle is for stuff like FPS games. I hate having to press in the thumbstick to run. Just absolutely hate it.
Okay.
Being able to map the thumbstick button onto one of the paddles is just so much nicer.
Okay, I can see that. Okay. I guess, but like the way I look at it, like, controllers are expensive as it is. Like, aren't they like $70 for a controller now? Like,
yeah.
Like, that's way too much money and it's for something that is required to use the system. And I don't know. I highly doubt that there is $50 worth of parts in that controller. I think at most it's $20. Like, do I have proof of it? No, but something just tells me that when it comes down to, if you break everything down to parts and everything, that the costs of everything is probably around 20 to 30, and they're using a $40 markup, which is ridiculous. Maybe that's different for the DualSense, but I'm looking specifically at my Xbox Series X controller and saying that's not worth $70. But even...
Well, I think the Series X controllers, since they're still just basically Xbox One controllers, they're $60, so $10 off compared to a pair of Switch Joy-Con or a DualSense controller being at $70.
Right, but I still believe that for it to be the price of a full game is sort of ridiculous. Like,
yeah, though I will give a bit of credit to this rumor from Tom Henderson about the Sony Pro controller. So the rumor about the Sony Pro controller is that supposedly both analog sticks will be user replaceable. So in the event that you're like a hardcore esports player and you just completely kill your analog sticks, then supposedly with this PS5 DualSense Pro controller that's being rumored to be revealed next week, potentially you'd be able to open up your controller, just yank the analog stick modules out, and just throw them to be recycled, get 2 brand new units that you get from Sony, just drop them right in, close up the controller, and you're back in action again.
That's interesting. But that probably also sounds more expensive. So,
yeah.
I'm hearing that, and I'm like, this is going to be a $200 controller, isn't it? Like, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I can definitely see them announcing that, not announcing the price. Someone digs into it and goes, $200? Holy crap. And the conversation goes. So, like, I've been curious to, like, buy one of those Elite controllers, but I just can't pull the trigger on spending so much money on one controller. Like, especially, like, if I play with my nephew. Like, if we play a game together and I bust out my Elite controller, he's going to look at that and go, I want to use that. and I hate to be this guy. I'm like, no. It's like, I paid for this. I'm using it. You use this crappy $70 controller, damn it. Like,
yeah. I would say the market for a Pro controller is really going to be down to people who have the same mentality of just like fighting game players who buy arcade sticks, which I have many. So that's why for me, I'm just like, the Xbox Elite controller, not a big deal. So yeah, that would be the sort of clientele I would assume would be interested in this PlayStation 5 Pro or Elite controller.
Okay. All right, well, that was kind of things that I wasn't surprised by. What I am surprised by is the rumor that gaming monitors are going to be talked about on this. And they're going to be gaming monitors that will be either optimized or advertised as great with PlayStation. So, I mean, we talked a little about this beforehand, but what are your thoughts on Sony now possibly releasing PlayStation-branded gaming monitors?
The way I see it is it's probably going to appeal more to people who are running tournaments and things like that. So just your fledgling tournament that's trying to get set up, and they just want to be just completely kitted out, so they're good to go for a PlayStation 5 tournament. So I assume that these are the type of folks that would be interested in these monitors, because instead of having to play the guessing game of, hey, which of these monitors plays nice with PlayStation 5, instead they can just go right to whoever has that certification for just an immediate turnkey solution that requires no thinking. Just plug this monitor in, plug your PS5s for your tournament in, and boom, you are off to the races.
Okay. Now, it's not a bad idea, okay? My thing is, the last time that Sony did something along the lines of this was when they made 3D TVs for the PS3, I think it was.
Yep.
And they bombed. They did not do well at all. I think they had to sell them pretty cheap at some point to sell the stock off.
Yeah, because the official PlayStation branded 3D TV, that was like a 27 or 32 inch 3D TV. I remember that thing brand new was like a whopping $300, and then by the time that Sony had said, okay, so yeah, 3D TVs are not the zeitgeist, so we're just gonna get the fuck out of this market. The PS3 PlayStation branded 3D TV, I think got clearanced out to like $100, which was a horkin' deal.
Yeah,
For the TV.
and the technology about it didn't seem bad. Isn't this the one that when you had a split screen game that you could wear your 3D goggles and have the whole screen to yourself on your goggles?
So it would render both both players' view, and basically you could sync up one set of 3D goggles as player 1 and one set of player goggles as player 2. So you would have both players would have full screen real estate for like a split screen game, and I think it was really advertised with MotorStorm as being the game that really leveraged this feature.
Yeah, I remember that. I mentioned this on Twitter, and because that was my first initial impression was, wait, remember 3D TVs? This might not be a great idea. And someone pointed it out. Yeah, 3D TVs were a fad. Gaming monitors are not. Like these of course were PlayStation fans, so they think, oh, this is going to sell great. I'm not so sure about this because the reason why you would do this is to sell it in a markup. So if you're advertising, great with PlayStation, you're hoping that people that don't have the education on these monitors to not realize that, oh, this same monitor here that's maybe $50 or $100 cheaper does the same thing as this PlayStation one. It just doesn't say that it's PlayStation is great for PlayStation. So Sony's going to mark these up. They're going to have HDR. It's either going to be 4K or 1440p, which I find surprising since the PS5 still doesn't have 1440p on it. So, like, I'm looking at this, and I'm like, a part of me gets it. Like, if someone wants to envelope themselves into the PlayStation ecosystem, great. Give them those accessories; they'll buy them. But all you need is a cursory, like a cursory Google search, or even just go to like Linus Tech Tips or those tech channels that review these monitors. And you're going to find that these monitors not only already exist, they're pretty cheap. And they're not, maybe not cheap, but they're affordable. And if you really want a gaming monitor, you can get them right now. And you can get them at a decent price. And I just see Sony just marking this up to, let's say, maybe $50 to $100 more than what the going price is because it's PlayStation. So that's my trepidation about it.
Yeah, personally, I don't think that this is really going to be for the average every gamer. I think it's going to be kind of like I hate to make a analogy that's very closely related to my job, but it's like business hotels. Just no ordinary person would pay the rates to stay at a business hotel because of all the other facilities that you have at the business hotel, like. Typically there's a built-in FedEx office so you can print shit and connect online and make brochures and presentation documents. There's an exercise gym so you can stay fit while you're on your business trip and whatever. So but I mean the only reason you would go to a business hotel is, well, just work is paying for it. And that's kind of how that's what I think the play is going to be for these PlayStation monitors. It's just going to be, hey, these play nice with PlayStation. These are going to be highly recommended for your esports tournament centers and things like that. And not to reveal where I live or anything, but one major city in North Texas has an esports stadium, and I could easily see them going, "Oh yeah, we got to get a bunch of these so we can get like tournament-ready PS5s just plugged up for the next Call of Duty major to roll into our city or whatever."
Yeah, but if you're going to buy them in bulk, wouldn't the business manager just say, "Well, let's contact Sony and buy them in bulk so we get a discount"? Like they're not going to
Yeah,
go to a store.
I mean,
They're not going to go to a
yeah,
store and say, "Give me 10 of your monitors, please." They're going to be like, "Let's contact Sony. We'll give them X amount plus maybe a little bit of, or we'll advertise their stuff and we'll get a discount on top of that, so we can have all these monitors." Like,
well, here's the rub.
okay,
So, the other scenario that can happen at a tournament is maybe you have one of the monitors die.
right,
So
right,
easily, just if these are also on store shelves, then at that point, whoever's running the tournament center can just have their logistics person say, uh, go out to the store to like Best Buy or something, pick up one of these real fast, and say, okay, cool, and then just life is back to normal instead of maybe the logistics person doesn't know much about just video gaming monitors or something. So just it eliminates the guesswork in this scenario where they can just go, okay, buy the one that's PlayStation certified, got it,
yeah.
and then they just snag one off the shelf, run back to the esports center, get that thing set up, and boom, done.
Okay. So, do you think this is a good business opportunity for Sony? Do you think this is gonna be something that's successful? I think the controllers and the headsets are a good idea. Absolutely. I'm not sure about the gaming monitor. Like that's the one where I'm like, maybe partner with somebody who's doing that right now. Like partner with an AOC or partner with what's another good monitor?
Thank you.
Yeah, like partner with one of them and just make it a Sony brand or a PlayStation branded monitor and do it that way. So, what do you think?
Yeah. So the headsets, yeah, those will definitely sell because just that's usually the first thing that a lot of enthusiast gamers will buy. Just a nice, good headset so they can get online, uh, talk with their friends, but also hear the game in crisp detail, especially for things like first-person shooters where spatial awareness is really going to help you just get the drop on somebody who's trying to sneak up from behind. So headsets, no brainer. That's easy. That and the markup on headsets is just absolutely ludicrous. So don't really see any issues with that.
Yeah.
The Pro controller, if it is confirmed that it's got replaceable analog sticks, I could see it pushing a lot of competition on the Xbox Elite controller because, unfortunately, for people who play a lot of FPS games, they will kill the hell out of their analogs for the Xbox Elite controllers.
Oh, really?
And while Microsoft is more than happy to fix fix the controllers under warranty, and I've even heard accounts of just Elite controllers being completely out of warranty and Microsoft being more than happy to just service the controller with no charge just to kind of keep the Elite controller owner happy. So yeah, just if Sony does this and the replacement analog stick modules are reasonably priced, then yeah, just I could definitely see a lot of people who play on PC who like the Elite controller but want the ability to be able to service and repair them much easier. I could potentially see them going, was thinking about an Elite, fuck that. I'll just go and get this new PlayStation Pro controller because I can just keep a stash of replacement analog sticks, and when one of these dies, bust this thing open, swap the stick, and I'm done, and I'm back in the game.
Okay.
The monitor, or monitor certification, however they decide to go with this, it's, in my opinion, it's going to be a push because the easy way out is just to make this thing a certification and just say, hey, we'll be working with OEM partners such as Asus, Gigabyte Aorus, AOC, BenQ, so on and so forth, just to certify that their monitors are compliant with the video standards in PS5. Then if they go with that, then that's easy, because at that point they're just collecting a licensing fee from the OEMs.
Mm.
But if they choose to go down the path of, oh well, we had these custom made from BenQ, ViewSonic, Asus, whoever, then at that point it could possibly become a money losing proposition, because at that point, just there is always the chance that the like the scenario you mentioned, just your Joe Every Gamer might go, okay, I just want a dedicated monitor so I can just play my esports stuff in sort of a more focused setting, and then they go to the monitor section of their local big box electronics store, and the PlayStation monitor is maybe anywhere from like $20 to $100 more than the quote unquote non PlayStation certified monitor, even though just the chatter online is that the non PlayStation monitor will be perfectly fine for just playing games on it and everything.
Yeah.
Then in that case, yeah, PlayStation is going to end up in a very similar situation to the PlayStation branded 3D TVs.
Right. So the thing that I don't get in this, really, and we'll end it here. They're apparently going to have monitors for resolution rate they don't even support right now. Like, that I don't get. Like, if you're going to have a 1440p monitor, then you should be updating your PS5 by then, right? Like, you wouldn't have that out in the marketplace, and then, I got my 1440p monitor, I'm gonna hook it up to my place. What do you mean only does 1080p? I look at that and I'm like, really? I mean, you're gonna, like, I hope they're gonna announce at that stream that, and we're gonna be supporting 1440p before then. Okay, great, but
yeah, I would expect a firmware update maybe sometime next week, or whenever these monitors are supposed to show up in stores.
Mm-hmm.
That there's going to be something like a firmware update to say, hey, the PS4 now supports 1440p.
What I'm surprised is not being discussed is the possibility that more PSVR 2 might be announced.
Yeah,
or
do you
think
point.
Or do you think that is something that they'll have their own dedicated stream for?
It sounds like that they may have a more dedicated stream for it. I'm thinking that this is probably going to be more centered towards the esports gamer. At least that's my thought on it.
Okay.
Because I mean, gaming monitor, gaming headsets, gaming controller. Yeah, at least that's my take on it. I think that this is going to be kind of like a esports gamer sort of peripheral broadcast.
Okay. Real quick, the DualShock, or the DualSense, I call it DualShock, the DualSense. What is your opinion on it now? When I first got the PS5 and I played with it, I, like everyone, was amazed by the haptics and the rumble in the game and how it felt. But as time went on, I became less and less comfortable with the controller and with the buttons and how they were, and not just how they were placed, but how the feel of the buttons are. And then when I got my Xbox, the Xbox, I went to that controller. I was like, oh, this feels great. To me, I would prefer the Xbox controller. But what do you feel the DualSense now that you've had, I think, for over a year now?
Actually, it'll be almost a year since I got my PS5 in August.
Oh, okay.
But honestly, just the DualShock is okay. I know some people were just like, "Oh my god, it's like revolutionary," and for me, I just didn't really feel that. I was like, okay, it just looks like a much more sleeker, much more futuristic PS4 controller.
Yeah.
But I was just like, it's not terrible, but it's not God's gift to gaming or anything.
No. I think the, as cool as the haptics and the rumble is, I think it's not as revolutionary as people are making it out to be. And only a few games are using that and the responsive triggers. I think the responsive triggers sounded cool at first, but then when you put it in practice, you kind of realize that I kind of don't like having to really press on my triggers in order to shoot a gun. Like I'd rather just click and then shoot and click and shoot. So
Yeah.
I end up turning those off when a game has that.
Yeah, the reactive triggers I think are neat for shooting games, especially with my real world firearms experience and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Deathloop, you had pistols that had a very very crisp 1911 style feeling from the adaptive triggers on my DualShock 5 and everything. And then when you use something like one of the sniper rifles in Deathloop, it has a very, very crisp glass-like break for the trigger when the bullet actually fires out of the gun in Deathloop and everything. And that's very much in line with what a $1,500 to $2,000 match rifle will feel like. So it's neat, but there's not nearly enough games that make use of that sort of technology. And then on top of that, for accessibility reasons, the feature can be completely disabled anyways.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. It's just like, it's a neat feature, but it's not as revolutionary as it seems to be. Whereas for me, the Xbox Series X controllers just feel like home.
Yeah.
And that's no surprise because they're the exact same design as the Xbox One controllers, just with no IR sensors on the controllers, which those were used when the Kinect was a thing, which that was one feature that I did think was kind of cool, that if you had the Kinect and one of the IR sensor loaded controllers, that if you picked up a controller and the Kinect identified your face, it would load your profile for picking up that controller. And so the IR sensors are gone now since the Kinect is no longer a thing. But yeah, just a few buttons have been moved around here and there, and all in all, just the Series X controllers, they just feel nice and comfortable. Yeah, they don't do anything magical or revolutionary. I think the only revolutionary thing that they did, and that was back when the Xbox One came out, were their rumble motors in the trigger. So when you play something like Forza and your tires go over a rumble strip, you can actually feel the rumble strip on your trigger finger and everything.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Zero. So we're at that time of the podcast where we have to say goodbye. But as always, I have a question for you.
All right.
Okay, so act a little more excited, I mean, this is the end. You don't have to deal with me after this in a couple days. So, just feign a little excitement, For a relationship to work, we have to work together, Zero. Good God. Anyway. Okay. So, with TMNT Shredder's Revenge out now, and it hitting the nostalgia buttons for everybody really hard, my question is, what property would you like to see come back as a video game nowadays?
Ooh.
Any property. It can be a TV show. It can be a video game. Anything.
Oh, that's tough. That is really, really tough.
Yeah.
Mostly because I've had just so many things that I would love to see come back, and just even things that were things that had sort of a niche audience and never caught on, and the studio sort of went belly up because of it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's just way too many choices for me. I would say, since I've been a little bit on a vintage shooter kick, I'd love to see Thunder Force come back, since Techno Software of Japan went belly up, Sega technically owns the IP rights for the Thunder Force games,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of funny because the Thunder Force games have always been Genesis centric too. So the series has always been sort of a Sega darling, anyhow. But I would love to see Thunder Force come back, or even hell, a Thunder Force anthology with just all the games just in one collection.
Okay.
Even though unfortunately Thunder Force 6 sort of deviated from the structure that the previous Thunder Force games had, I still think it would have a place in a Thunder Force collection. But if they were to make a Thunder Force 7, I would love to see it go a little bit back to where Thunder Force 5 was, just crazy bombastic electronic soundtrack, insane dogfights where you've got enemies coming fast and furious at you from behind you and in front of you, just overdriving your weapons as usual, just all the accoutrement that you can come to expect from a Thunder Force game.
Okay, cool. All right. I'm gonna stick with games too, because there's really not much in movies or TV that I look at and say that should be a video game. So, my favorite my favorite game system is the Game Boy Advance, and it mainly is because it's the first system I bought with my own money. That said, though, one of my fondest memories is playing the Super NES, and I played a lot of Super NES games. And I'm looking at like the best Super NES games right now, and I'm looking at games like Panel to Pawn or what was called Tetris Attack and Super Punch Out. I love Super Punch Out. But the one game that sticks out, like that I would really love to see, is Ogre Battle. Now, I thought the first Ogre Battle on Super NES was good, not great. But what made me really fall in love with Ogre Battle was Ogre Battle 64. And it was probably because there was nothing to play on the 64 at the time. And I just bought it on a whim. My mom bought it on a whim. And I played it and I was like, this is awesome. Oh my god, this is so cool. Do you know what Ogre Battle is?
Oh yeah. I've followed it for a long time, and it's actually kind of funny because the Ogre Battle series actually does sort of tie into Final Fantasy XII in the world of Evilus.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Because if I remember right, the primary writer was actually very involved in Ogre Battle, and then when the rights sort of got mired up and everything, this was before Square ended up buying up the Ogre Battle IP and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That the story was just sort of built up into its own universe, and he sort of wanted to continue it, but since he didn't have the IP the IP rights to Ogre Battle, he sort of kind of continued it in a way in Final Fantasy XII. So I've seen some people talk about that there is a relationship between the realm of Ogre Battle and Tactics Ogre meets Final Fantasy XII.
Okay. Like, I would really like to see a new one. I know that Sony accidentally revealed that Tactics Ogre is probably going to get a remaster for the PS5. So, and I like Tactics Ogre. It's good, but man, Ogre Battle was so much fun. I would like to go back and replay Ogre Battle 64 again when it comes out on the Switch online. Yeah, I would actually pay for that for a month to play it again. But would I kill to have another Ogre Battle? My God, that would be so cool to play. I know it won't sell, and I know that. I know that. Well, maybe if Diablo Chronicles actually sells well, it may come out. But I look at Ogre Battle, I'm like, man, would I love to play another one of those again? Just the gameplay of that was so much fun. If you haven't tried it, I think you could still get it on PS3, I think, as a classic. I'm not sure. But, yeah, it's such a fun game. People should try it if they get a chance. So, it was on PlayStation, so yes, I think it is. So, yeah, Ogre Battle will be my choice. All right. Well, on that note, that will be the end of this episode of the Capital Games Podcast. Tune in next week where we talk about the latest and greatest in the business and culture of video games. I am The Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
And we will talk to you next week. Goodbye.